A very good afternoon to all of you, all the members of Hisar branch, Sonepat branch, and the members of ICAI. I welcome on behalf of Hisar and Sonepat branch to all of you in today's webinar on Audit Quality Maturity Model Series 2. आज हम इसका सीरीज 2 वेबिनार है और सेम स्पीकर है हमारे साथ आर मोहन लवी जी जो हमको टाइम दे रहे हैं दोबारा रिक्वेस्ट पर। और मोहन जी आपका भी स्वागत करता हूं मैं सोनीपत ब्रांच और हिसार ब्रांच मेंबर्स के बीच। पर ज्यादा टाइम ना लेते हुए मैं सरस जी से कहूंगा कि 2 शब्द कह के स्टार्ट करें।
थैंक यू भरत जी। मैं सबसे पहले तो सोनीपत ब्रांच एंड हिसार ब्रांच के सभी मेंबर्स का स्वागत करता हूं, पदाधिकारियों का स्वागत करता हूं और हमारे स्पीकर मोहन आर लवी जी, आप सभी सर आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है सर। आप सर सीरीज 2 में भी आप सर हमारे साथ जुड़े और मेंबर्स को अपनी नॉलेज देंगे सर, उसके लिए आपका बहुत बहुत थैंक यू सर। मैं आपके बारे में थोड़े 2 शब्द जरूर कहूंगा सर। Mr. Mohan R. Levy qualified as a chartered accountant in 1989. He has over 25 years of experience in industry across a variety of industries. He has worked in senior positions in finance, in manufacturing and software companies. Mohan also has over 6 years of experience in practice. At present, he is a partner with KP Rao and Company Chartered Accountant Bangalore and heads the Ind AS and GST practices of the firm. Mohan is the author of book on IFRS, Ind AS, key audit matters and other related topics. Mohan has spoken at various conferences in India and abroad on accounting standards, IFRS, Sarbanes-Oxley and GST. Is a faculty member of the Institute for the IFRS Certification Course and Registered Valuer Program. So, sir, please request you to start your technical session, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, namaskar, sabhi members ko. Thank you, Sarash ji. Thank you, Bharat Jain ji, for inviting me for the second time. एक बात तो बोलना ही चाहिए कि I think this is the first branch or these are the first 2 branches who are doing the second version of the AQMM course. I have not heard of any branch which has done it for the second time. And also seeing the participation of the members, I think it is really good that the branch has conducted this program. I was just asking Sarashi before this, and he said that the institute is giving a lot of importance to AQMM. Because of a lot of factors, obviously, because audit quality is becoming very, very important. So basically, I think it's a very good initiative of the branch that I have not seen even Bangalore branch doing 2 courses. Supposedly one of the biggest branches in the country, but they've still done, I think, only 1 course on AQM. I don't think they've done the second series. So I think this definitely is a good sign that one is, of course, whatever we are trying to practice in terms of what we're doing in terms of the audit. And दूसरा बात है कि once we build in this a little bit of additional quality, I'm not, nobody is saying that there's no quality right now. It's only that we have to just make marginal improvements in our quality for the purpose of complying with this AQMM. So I'll take you through all those things. Later on, maybe in a couple of days, I will also, I have just developed sort of an Excel sheet, which will, it's like a scorecard basically, because all this is basically based on points. And once that Excel sheet is ready, I'll share it to the Sonepat and Hisar branches. So all of you can use that Excel sheet for, I'll just show one small example of it during today's presentation. So aap bhi use kar sakte hain usko. There are 2 things which I wanted to say even before I start my presentation. First is that even though this is going to be initially applicable to listed companies, banks and insurance companies, not bank branches, but this is how normally regulations commence in India. It normally applies to the large companies, the listed companies, and later on it sort of comes down to the small and medium enterprises in whatever form. And maybe it's in a shortened form or to be a summarized form, whatever it is. So the point I want to say is that just because आपके पास listed company audit नहीं है, please don't ignore the AQMM. Quality is a process. It does not happen overnight. It's a process. So just because it's not applicable to the clients you're auditing or you don't have a listed company, please don't ignore it. There are a couple of things which we can implement immediately in our office. It does not matter whether we have got a listed company audit or a bank statutory audit or an insurance company statutory audit. हम इसको immediately implement कर सकते हैं. So I think those are the few things I wanted to talk about today. I will also take you all through the points or the ranking mechanism which is there, and then we will see why this is becoming so important today. Okay, why is this important in the present context? We know that the AQMM itself says that it is a capacity building measure. It is to self-evaluate current levels of maturity for audit firms and competencies that are good or that are lacking. In any audit, I think all of us will definitely agree on this point. In any audit, because of the constraints of time, there are certain things which probably are not either completely documented or completely recorded. I think this is something we'll all have to accept as a fact. See, the advantage of this AQMM is that though it may sound to many of you that this is too sophisticated to bring in for the CA firm because of the fact that, it contains so many things on HR and all those things. But still, I will tell you all that, as I told you all, this is a process. You have to start the process today. Aapko process start karna chahiye. The other thing which is probably important is that, see, we have already got these things. We've got a peer review board which does a peer review of all your, audit firms. We've got FRRB from the ICA, which is commenting or which is sort of giving their views on important aspects of the financial statements. The ICA has set up something called as the Center for Audit Quality or CAQ, which is the driver behind this AQMM model. They will be sort of implementing the AQMM model. And if you look at the present scenario, I have put in here NAFRA both in a higher font as well as in red, with a certain purpose, it's with a certain intention also. आप सब देखे ही होंगे कि NAFRA has given out so many reports. They've given a lot of reports on ILFS. They've given out one report also on a company called Kudremukh Iron Ore Company in Bangalore. Now, the reason why this becomes a topic for discussion is that NAFRA is looking at listed companies only. But it is not going to be long before NAFRA sort of changes their scope and gets into other companies. They can go by a net worth criteria. They already have a consultation paper for audits below 250 crores, all those things there. NAFRA is becoming a sort of a regulator for audit firms. And I think one of the things which comes across in most of their inspections is the fact that the audit firm could have probably done things better. I'm not talking about the ILFS thing per se, but generally I'm saying. ILFS ka to as a post-mortem, they did a lot of comments, which is fine. I mean, that's generally a post-mortem report. So that is, that's something which we can always look at later on. But I think a couple of things which come out very clearly from the NAFRA reports is the fact that auditing standards, they have singled out instances wherein the auditors have not been able to sort of follow the auditing standards, or they've not followed the auditing standards. We know that there have been organizations like the Society for Serious Fraud Investigation Office and all those organizations. We've seen all those organizations also. But NAFRA seems to be different. Those organizations just did a limited job and went away. They are still there, but they're not so serious in their impact. But NAFRA seems to be an organization which will probably last for some more time. And it is modeled on something called as the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board in the US. Members who are interested can go to this website called as pcaobus.org and look at the inspection reports. The PCAOB, the PCAOB in the US has been empowered to and has given inspection reports, just like your peer review report, on many audit firms. And again, there is a lot of things which come out in terms of documentation, following auditing standards and all these things, audit quality and all these things. So this is a global phenomenon. The need to improve audit quality is a global phenomenon. It's not just that, it's in the Indian context, it's a global phenomenon. FRRB is now focusing a little bit on this review of the financial statements, because it appears that the Reserve Bank of India and SEBI and everybody are a little bit worried about the rising number of cases being referred for insolvency. And what is the role of auditors? When we speak about the role of auditors, they are just trying to say if the auditors have discharged their functions properly or not. In fact, I have got a request from the FRRB recently to review one of the financial statements of a company which has gone in for insolvency. And they have very specifically said that please look into the fact that the auditor has mentioned what or not has to be mentioned in a case wherein a company is going for an insolvency. So everybody is looking at auditors. Everybody is looking at auditors. FRRB is looking at auditors. SEBI is looking at auditors. RBI is looking at auditors. Nafra to bolna hi nahi chahiye. So the focus on our profession is becoming a little bit more intense. When the focus becomes intense, we as professionals need to just focus on audit quality. That is as simple as that. The reason for this AQMM is only for the purpose of trying to tell the auditors that please improve your audit quality. I will repeat again, I will tell you all that nobody is making a comment that audit quality abhi nahi hai. Audit quality to hai hi. But considering the environment in which we are, wherein everybody is looking upon auditors for some sort of a magic solution, we will have to improve our audit quality. The AQMM is not going to tell us what to do in the audit. That is the role of accounting standards and auditing standards. It is only going to give us a few benchmarks to tell us how our audit should be, or what is the competencies we should have in order to make a proper audit. I'll give you a chota sa example. This happened in the US. I will give this example of the US because it will be a sort of icebreaker for this entire discussion on audit quality. There was a listed company in the US whose auditors had to be changed because of the requirement of the US Securities and Exchange Board Act, wherein they had SEC Act, and the auditor had to sort of be rotated or changed, as we know in the Indian context also. Now the incoming auditor, what he did was apparently the company sort of identified a particular auditor and told him, can you do the audit? I said, "Theek hai, main karta hu, no problem." So the incoming auditor, instead of asking for a no objection or corresponding with the previous auditor, he just called him up on the telephone and told him, "I've been referred for this company's audit. How is this company? How is it doing? Do you think there are any issues we have to be concerned?" And the outgoing auditor did not say anything. He said, "Theek hai, that's not a very bad company. You can go ahead with it. Whatever they had discussion, they had it." Now in the US, they've got a procedure. They've got a procedure wherein even if the outgoing auditor has some concerns, when he gives the no objection, he should write to the incoming auditor. The incoming auditor will write a letter, just like how we do for NOC. In that NOC, he will also ask whether you have any objections. Those objections have to be recorded. The Public Company Accounting Oversight Board picked up this conversation or picked up this particular thread and said that there was no written documentation. The outgoing auditor has apparently identified 2 or 3 areas as risks, which was not documented. So the Public Accounting Oversight Board told the incoming auditor that you are not qualified to be an auditor of this company because at the starting itself, you are not focusing on this audit quality. Very, very simple, what you can say, correspondence, whatever you may call. It is just an administrative procedure. So because of this environment in which we are, we will have to be a little bit more careful. That is the end purpose of this AQM. As I've told you all, it is applicable only to, I think it's not come here, just a minute. Yeah, it's applicable only to a listed entity, banks other than cooperative banks, insurance companies, branch audits. There's no need for you to worry about branch audits because branch audits are not covered in this particular definition of, are not covered in the scope of this AQM. So Basically, listed company, banks other than our cooperative banks, insurance companies, firms doing only branch audits are not covered. This is the scope. Right now, it is only recommendatory in nature. It will only be mandatory after that. The Center of Audit Quality has mentioned that they will probably make it mandatory from 1st of July. We have no official announcement as such about it being mandatory after 1st of July. But I will still exhort all of you all to keep these things in mind, because of the fact that even though it's not a statutory mandate as such, don't wait for that to happen. Those marginal improvements which you're going to try and see today, you can probably do it from day one itself. So last time though, I did the same thing for the Hisar and Sonepat branches. But that time it was the first session. Because this is a series 2, I'm going to do a little bit of a small improvement in this. So whenever as we move along this discussion, considering the scope of this particular AQMM, I want all of you all to keep in mind the fact that you all are the auditors of a listed company. It could be based in Sonepat, it could be based in Hisar, wherever it may be. You all are the auditors of a listed company. 31st March 2021 audit abhi khatam hua hai. It's just been over. It has been signed off. AGM date of 30th November has been met with. So audit is done and dusted. Keeping that in mind, please try to answer these questions on audit quality, keeping that audit in mind. Because if we don't want to do it for a future audit, we will always try to be a little bit careful. The best way to start the AQMM is to do it for an audit which has already been completed and see where we are in terms of whatever we have done. So please try and use this. As I said, I will send the Excel sheet to you all in probably a couple of days. I'm just tying up the loose ends in terms of formulas and all. Once it is done, you all can definitely start. You all can use the same Excel sheet for the purpose of this thing here. What is this AQMM? It is not an auditing standard. It's not an accounting standard. It's not a law. It's not a guidance note. The reason I'm putting this across is because in the Indian context, sabhi log bolte hain, mandatory hai kya, to karenge. Mandatory nahi hai kya, to chhod denge. Why should we do it if it's not mandatory? Because it's not an accounting standard. It's not a law. It's not guidance note. We all know about it. Guidance note is only for the purpose of guidance. We need not necessarily follow that guidance. Even though it is none of these three things, as I said, this is the first time probably the ICA has come out with a detailed document on its own on audit quality. Now, we have seen so many situations wherein the auditing standard is SQC1 itself talks a lot about audit quality. So why do we require this? We require a model. The SQC1 is a document, it is a standard. We require to have a model, and the model means that we need to put in some points, we need to put in some competencies, we need to assign marks to those competencies and assess services. That is the purpose behind this AQMM. So just because it is not mandatory, please don't say that we will not follow it. There are basically three areas of competencies, or three main areas wherein this AQMM model is going to focus on. The first area is practice management, operation. Operations means you're operationally how you are during the course of the audit. The second is human resource management. And the third is practice management, strategic or functional. These three main areas have got sub areas also. They have got sub areas also. As we go along, you all will see what is more important. To my mind, the way you all should implement this model, I'll come to that in a little bit. Many people, I'll give a disclaimer right here. Whenever we speak about, or whenever you look at the provisions regarding human resources management, aap sab bolenge, sir, what is this? How is it possible to have human resources management in a CA firm? Especially we are a small CA firm, not doing much of, we have a normal practice. We are not a corporate entity to have HR management and all those things. So I would probably give you a few, concessions there and tell you, actually, you all may have a point there. But having said that, there are some areas in this human resource management provisions or competencies which we will definitely have to implement. So please don't think that this human resource is not like HR of a corporate entity. There are certain areas there where definitely we can have a lot of value additions which we can do in the course of our audit. The last part, practice management, strategic or functional, is really not much of a problem because it talks about registration with the CNDG, registration with the RBI, any negative comments in the peer review board, and all those the administrative sort of issues there. So the main part will obviously be practice management operation, and I will again insist upon all of you all to focus on that only, because that is going to be the most critical area. In this, you can see that they have got many different sub areas. What are the practice areas of the firm? Do they have practice manuals? Do you have quality review manuals or audit tools? Do you monitor service delivery versus effort? We know this for a fact. We spend so much of time in audits. The cost benefit analysis is never really done. Risk reward ratio is never really analyzed that. Do you have a benchmarking of service delivery? Technology adoption, revenue budgeting and pricing, performance evaluation measures. Are you sensitizing the client also on certain important aspects of the law? So you can see that practice management operation, which I call as PMO, is going to be the primary starting point for your AQMM. Now, many people will tell me this, and this is actually a fact also. Do we require to have a practice manual? Do we require to have a QR manual, quality review manual? हमारे पास checklist है. We got a checklist for auditing standards. We have a checklist for accounting standards. We have a checklist for SQC1. We have a checklist for audit documentation. Despite having all these checklists, do we still require a manual? Or do you want me to convert the checklist itself into a manual? So these questions definitely do come up. To a certain extent, according to me, a checklist is a manual. The checklist is a manual. The only problem in a checklist is that it has to specifically apply to the client. It can't be a general checklist like a Caro checklist. And many of those auditing standards may not be applicable to the client. So you may have to fine tune the checklist to make it a little more detailed for this particular audit and such. Otherwise, basically, it has the nature of a manual. The other major problem, which is definitely going to come up, is this. When you look at this service delivery effort monitoring, and if you look at revenue budgeting and pricing, look at these prices, you got these clauses, you get this general impression, or you get this general sort of a conclusion we can reach, that it appears that audit quality would also depend upon the fees we are charging for that particular client. Though the AQMM does not specifically mention about this fact, AQMM does not specifically mention about this fact. We are ultimately the fees is left to the auditor and the client ultimately. So you can't really have a model for the fees which has to be done. But as members know, yes, ICA has given a recommended scale of fees. NAFRA has recently come out with some magic document on fees. Do not know how that is going to work. In my personal opinion, yes, the fees should be left between the auditor and the client, with the rider or with the disclaimer saying that if the fees is too low, I think we can probably assume that compromise can happen in audit quality also. I think that is something we'll have to worry about. There's ICA recommended scale of fees, so koi dekha nahi hai. Nobody pays us that money because they say, okay, it's only recommended. Okay, we'll apply the recommendation only. We use it as a recommendation only. But the ideal place is somewhere midway, wherein you're not doing this ICA, but and also not too low. This, I think, is a factor which all of us need to consider at the time of the audit itself, in the sense that, if it is too low a fees, or the fees is fixed very, very low, we probably may compromise on certain materials or certain areas of the audit for the simple reason that why would you want to do so much when I'm not being paid for it? I think that's a very honest question, but it requires an honest answer. You should not be doing it also, right? So I think that is where this PMO sorts of starts off with by talking about these things here. So let's look into the individual areas. Human resource management also, I'll tell you all the broad points. Resource planning and monitoring, I will come to that when I do the HR bit. Employee training and development. This is one big takeaway which all of us have from this model. We will have to train our employees. in our case, employees obviously means article clerks or audit managers, as the case may be. Turnover compensation, baad mein dekhenge. Then practice management, infrastructure, physical and others, practice credentials. Okay, we'll come to that later on. So now I'm going to look at, this is the commencement of the PMO, and this is how the AQMM model, in fact, this is how the entire AQMM model is structured. There will be a area, or there will be a what we call as a competency area. There will be a metric which will measure that particular area, and points will be assigned for that particular metric. Points will be assigned for that particular metric. You all can see here the first point. Please remember the title of this is Audit Quality Maturity Model. So it is applicable only to entities who have got a significant amount of auditing as a part of their revenue. The AQMM model starts off with this basic thing saying that you will get, if you have got revenue from audit and assurances, if minimum 50% of the revenue is from audit and assurance services, and this includes all the audits, statutory audit, tax audit, and all these audits, for a period of 3 years, 50 to 75%, you get 1 point. More than 75%, you get 2 points. Right? More than 75%, you get 2 points. So it's very clear when you are having a AQMM model, your main aim should be that it should be a firm which has got a significant, and in this case, significant means more than 50% of revenue from audit and assurance services, including all types of audit. Please understand, tax audit, GST audit to nahi hai abhi, but fir bhi, suppose it comes back in some form, whatever it may be, right? Whatever is called as audit will be covered in this. So immediately I'm expecting a question in the chat box. What happens if my revenue is below 50%? That means your firm is not specializing in audit. AQMM model will still apply to you if you're doing a listed company audit, but you will get 0 points because of your 50% is not, the threshold of 50% of revenue is not. We know firms have got 30%, 40% because they're doing consultancy and other things also. Starting first question itself, 1 point or 2 point. You will have to look at your profit or loss account and see how much of revenue is from audit, how much from other sources. To my mind, if it's an auditing firm and you look at especially tax audits and all, I think 50% will easily be crossed. So I'm sure you'll get 1 point in that without having to do any quality work there. Just because the revenues are 50%, you get 1. Second, does the firm have a vision and mission statement? Many of you have gone for audit of corporates will see when you enter the building, you will see vision and mission statement. They want CA firms also to have it now. The corporate, the practice is being corporatized. So if you ask me a question, whether I should have this vision and mission statement just because I want to follow the AQMM, my answer is going to be no. Don't worry about the vision and mission statement. Because of a very simple reason. There are no points for this. Because there are no points, I will conveniently ignore it. But agar aapko chahiye, to please, or can please put in a vision and mission statement to be the leading auditing firm in the country, whatever you may want, or in North India or in Eastern India, wherever you are based. You all want to put that, you will put it in there. Audit quality, leading in audit quality, whatever. But it really doesn't make any sense because it's just a statement. You will have to implement that particular statement. So this is where your starting of your AQMM itself is important. I'll just quickly respond to a question which Manoj just put on chat. Manoj Daga has put a very interesting question on chat, and he said that can't ICA take up this responsibility for identifying firms wherein audit fees has been low and audit quality has been compromised? I will completely agree with you, sir, on that. It is actually what NAFRA has done. Maybe ICA should have had the data in some time back, but I have absolutely no idea why it has not been done. I think it's very clear that the data is available. There's no doubt the data is not available. This 100% data is available. But I think linking that audit fees to that whatever quality, I think that proved to be a little bit of a hindrance for the ICA. But I completely agree with you. They can still do it, incidentally. See, NAFRA has not done a very thorough job of what they have mentioned there. But they always scope for improvement, always scope for improvement. And we all know this for a fact. We all know this for a fact that in some entities wherein the audit fees are extremely low, consulting fees are very, very high. Please look at the ILFS report of the NAFRA. I mean, for ICDS implementation or ICDS advice or whatever that is, they've charged some 4 or 5 crores. So it's very obvious where your priorities are in this particular case. So I completely agree with that. I think ICA can still do it. They can still do it because data is available. Data is definitely available. They should definitely do it. Okay. Please forgive me for a little bit of cough because it's just not going away. It's persistent. It's just, but no problems. Don't worry about it. It can't transmit online at least. Okay. The second part is presence of audit manuals containing the firm's methodology that ensures compliance to audit. Here is where I spoke about the checklist. हमारे सभी के पास checklist रहता है. We all do this. We give it to the audit clerk and say, please go and start the audit containing checklist. SQC1 up to this last auditing standard, you all will send a checklist. SA 700, SA 701, सभी का checklist होंगे उनके पास. Checklist is basically yes and no question. Here also, it's only yes and no question. Do you have a manual or not? As I said, manual is equal to checklist with a little bit of a refinement. If you have got yes, 2 points. If you have got no, 0 point. Please don't worry about what is the content of the manual. You only should have a manual. But here I have, that's why I told you earlier also. Please ensure that the checklist is updated. Do you also have formats for letter of engagement, representation letters, significant working papers, and reports? Very simple. Answer is yes, 2 points. Answer is no, 0 points. We will have formats. We obviously have formats. But are they standardized? So that's what the practice manual is asking for. Now, I should also, as I told you earlier, you all should remember that you all have already done the audit. That's why I said you all should implement this for an audit already done. Audit is completed in the first week of November, first week of December, whenever the audit has been completed, March 21. Started in August, finished in November or end of November. For that, you are trying to implement this. Do you have a letter of engagement? Have you taken a representation letter? Do you have significant working papers? Audit file to hai. Audit file will always be there. But what is there is what is inside that file. Do you have all formatters of reports? I think this is where I will just mention a couple of points wherein definitely we can improve upon. I'm not talking about any specific firm or specific individual. I'm just talking about a general practice as such. As I said, we all have checklists. Definitely we have checklists. We give them the auditing standard. We give them the accounting standard. We give them the Ind AS. We give them Companies Act. We give them everything. And to a large extent, the audit also has been conducted successfully because of the fact that as a partner, you know what are the issues in that audit. So you know that these are certain areas where there can be, scope for improvement, shall I say, or wherein you have a discussion with the management. I think among all these letters or all this documentation, one document which or one area wherein I think we can definitely improve is summarizing what are the conclusions which have been reached. During the course of the audit, I told you all, this audit you have done, we just finished for March 21. Conclusions reached. Conclusions means what was the issue which was identified, how was it discussed, and what conclusion was reached. As I said, without blaming any audit firm, I can tell you all that this is an area wherein there's a lot of scope for improvement. This paper is normally not there, incidentally. This paper is normally not there because we just assume that, okay, it'll be there. It'll just, sort of take care of itself. It will not. It will be, unless we specifically write that, it will not take care of itself. I would suggest to all of you all that as a practical, see, I can talk on AQMM for many hours, no problem. I think the trick is in implementing it. For the audit just completed, any audit, don't look at listed company, don't look at, private limited net worth, nothing. Just any audit completed. Just try to find for this paper in the audit file, what were the significant points raised, what were the points discussed, and how it was concluded. When we say how it was concluded, we are talking about whether it went to the audit report, whether it went for the EOM, whether it went for key audit matters, whether it was a qualification, whether it was dropped, or whether the question has been satisfactorily. Why it has been dropped? Because it has been satisfactorily, answered by the management. TCWG nowadays very important. Those charged with governance. Try doing it. If it is there, absolutely brilliant. If it is not there, I would recommend please maintain this document. Please do this document now. When you still have time, you can do it. You can talk to the people who went for the audit and ask them what were the issues raised. Please talk to this. I think this is where quality comes into the picture. I think many of you all will probably agree with me when I say this, that we have a lot of data. In our audits, we have a lot of data. Data is collected, data is asked, data is given, data is, modified, it's upgraded, everything is there in data. I think it is how the data has been managed or how it has been articulated in the report or in the audit papers. I think that becomes important. So both the quality and the quantity of documentation are important. Actually, quantity will not be very, very important. Quality is very, very important. All this letter of engagement and all these things will definitely be there. But you all will have to ensure that it is updated. And for this, you all will get 2 points. Let's move forward now. Client acceptance engagement checklist. Again, yes or no, no problem. Another thing which all of us will have, and a very big temptation for all of us, assuming this AQMM CA final examination, all of you all want to score the maximum marks. So क्या करेंगे आप? You say ठीक है क्या? What does he want? Engagement checklist है, ठीक है कर देंगे उसके बाद में. Right now I'll put 1 point. बाद में कर देंगे उसको. Very big temptation for all of us to do. In fact, I've also done it when I first started off this, scoring the model. I also tried to do it, but then I thought, no, it's not correct. Again, you'll probably be having this, but still. And look at the other thing which comes in here. It talks about evaluation of independence for all the engagements. Scoring based on, again, yes 1 point, no 0 points. There is a very intricate link between the AQMM model and the code of ethics. The revised code of ethics of ICAI, there is a very intricate link between the two. The code of ethics, all those 3 volumes, I'm sure that the branch, Sonepat and Nisar have done a lot of sessions on that, but all those 3 volumes talk about threats only, basically. The end result of this is that the auditor should be truly independent. Now, independence, as all of us know, is a very, very difficult word to get or to implement. Bolna aasan hota hai, but implementing it is a problem, right? Independence is a state of mind. More so for the auditor, because the threat of this familiarity, according to me, this threat of familiarity is one of the biggest threats which can possibly happen. And ICAI has sort of very correctly identified as a threat. What is this threat of familiarity? Sarashji has got a client in Sonepat. Client for the last 10 years with him. As we normally say, he's not only a client, he's also a friend. He knows exactly what Sarashji is doing. Sarashji knows exactly what he's doing. They both are mutually under the impression that if at all anything has to be told, it will be told. And hence there should be no problem as far as this audit is concerned. In the course of this discussion, or in the course of this relationship for 10 years, whatever has happened, they have become so familiar with each other that he knows the business very well. The client knows what Sarashji is going to ask very, very well. The code of ethics identifies that itself as a threat. Because of this familiarity, Sarashji has got used to asking a certain set of questions. He will not ask, I won't say additional, but new questions. The code of ethics also has given a solution for this. They said that, okay, that is there, please get it reviewed by some other person. Please get your work reviewed by some other person. AQMM model also says that if you have got an independence checklist for the partners, whatever the threats are, see, normally people say rotate the partners once in 3 years, once in 4 years, once in 5 years, whatever it be. But again, all of us know for a fact that it is practically not possible because of the fact that a firm may have only 2 or 3 partners. And one is doing GST, one is doing audit, one is doing tax. So where's the question? The tax partner may not want to sign the audit balance sheet. So those limitations definitely exist. But please follow the solution given the code of ethics. Get an outside person to review and say that whether this is being done properly or not, or is there a threat of independence which has to be looked into. Okay, engagement withdrawal policy usko chhod denge. Sampling basis, all this is coming from auditing standards. Aapka checklist to hoga hi uska. Please follow the checklist. Now, all the auditing standards, as we said, some may be applicable, some may not be applicable. The answering is yes or no, very simple basis, no problem as far as that is concerned. This is the area wherein we have to look at this thing. So here they are again talking about capacity planning, budgeting of efforts required. You can see where the AQM model is taking us now. They are, as I told you, they're trying to not only corporatize audit, but they're also trying to ensure that you don't spend too much of a time or more time in audit than is necessary. And we are all very, very familiar with this fact that sometimes audits take forever because, you know, if you ask the article clerk, she'll always say, I asked for data, data is not coming, sir. And if the data is not coming, what are you doing there? I think that's what the AQM model is trying to ask. You know, we know, I can give you a live example for this. One of our clients who's based in a place called Mysore near Karnataka. He required some assistance for some work, not a statutory audit, but some September results. He wanted to do something for some results or whatever it is. And I mean, the process is going on, but we thought 3 weeks. It's more than 3 weeks now. So what the AQMM model is trying to say is that, do you have this as a part of your, the idea is very, very simple. You assume that this job can be done in this time. It may not. Obviously, there'll be a stretch of time. But the focus should be that your quality should be in such a manner that you should probably plan to do this in this particular. That's why they're saying, see, budget versus actual analysis of time and effort and costing and pricing. Here, I think it's slightly complicated. So I don't think we require so much of complication in a very simple AQM model. I think I've also written to the ICI saying that don't make it so complex, you know. Who does this? Point number one. Okay, you want us to do it, we'll do it. Definitely we can all do this. But is tarah ka complicated scoring is not required. More than 30%, less than 40%, 50%, 3 points. This is not required. What is this for? Number of assignments in which compliance of budget with the work actually is carried out. I can tell you honestly, in our firm it's 0. So I'm going to get 0 points for this, definitely. We never do this. Who does this? Costing versus pricing. There is a certain audit fee which has been fixed. We know that. In the past year, a certain audit fee has been fixed. And okay, if you want, you can ask for an increase in audit fees this year. But the increase is not based on time spent on it. It's going to be based on factors like inflation, COVID, and all those. Nobody actually does this. But there is a message here. There is a message here. I'm only reminded of this, Ind AS 11 construction contracts. What is called as onerous contracts, wherein if there's a loss immediately at the inception of the contract, please recognize the loss immediately. They seem to be going there here. They are trying to say that if you know that it is going to be a loss, your quality is obviously going to compromise, because you know that they're not going to be paid too much for this particular thing, or going to be paid only a fixed amount for this particular thing. Effort monitoring service delivery, it's called in the AQMM model. It may not be practical for us to do this in every type of audit, so let's not worry about doing this here, but I would still take this as an input. And the message I wanted to convey to all of you all is that, which I think also is the driver behind what the AQMM model is trying to say, is that if too much of time is being spent in an audit and you're not being compensated for it, cut down the time. You can't increase the compensation. I think that is the message which the AQMM model is trying to this thing here. Time sheets. Do you have project management, say time sheets, task management, and all these things? You can see again where the AQMM model is taking us. Our office maybe time sheets hai. They say DCMM version 2 maybe I have to arrive at technical material. That is a different. Digital competency model is different. This is audit quality model. Do you have a time sheet? Yes or no? Here we will score 2 points definitely our form, because we have a time sheet. Hamare paas hai. All the article clerks, they have said every day 8 hours without any problem. We are supposed to or 6 hours, whatever is to be mentioned there, they will mention it. Again, I think that is not the intention. It's not just repetition of a template. I think the idea is very, very clear. Idea is that, are you spending quality time on the audit, or is the time spent or the time being spent too much as compared to the, I told you, risk-reward relationship? That ratio becomes important. We can also look at timesheets. We can also look at timesheets from the point of view of number of resources which are required in audit. Sometimes too much of resources are used in audit, sometimes too less of resources are used in audit. So I think that resource management also comes in from your timesheets. Later on, there's a bit on technology adoption, but I'll not, even before I go there, I tell you all that you all don't have to get complicated tools or whatever for these timesheets. You can use MS Excel, more than sufficient. Okay, does the firm have a partner review, quality review for all audit assignments? Total engagements having concluded to be satisfactory after the as per quality review. Number of engagements without findings by ICA, committees of ICA, and regulatory improvements. All those bodies there. Documentation of the firm in accordance with SQC1. Apart from all those things, we also have SQC1 here. Do you have accounting and auditing resources in the form of soft copies, question and answers, firm thought leadership, technical desk? Technical desk it's too much, but that doesn't matter. Appropriate time spent on understanding the business, risk assessment, engagement. Total 19 points for these 2 things. I will come to why I mentioned these 19 points also is important here. So, okay, SQC1 doesn't matter, we have a checklist, right? And here also, does a partner review this? The peer review board has reviewed, made some recommendations. You'll also have to put that in case there is some adverse comment, recommendations made. How many have got a satisfactory peer review certificate without having very major adverse comments? That also becomes for this thing here. Accounting and auditing resources in the form of soft copies. I am sharing the experience I had in my firm. That's why I, always would tell those examples here, because they seem to be so relevant. I think recently it was maybe a month or 2 back, there was some audit which was going on, or some work which was going on. There was one particular requirement of having to find out something on revenue recognition for Ind AS purposes. Ind AS 115. So I asked the article clerk, okay, what does Ind AS 115 say on this? Her immediate response was to go to Google. And I told her that, okay, Google is all fine. I said, where are you seeing this? She said some, some website, whatever it is. I don't know, the first thing you should do as an article clerk is that when you're doing an audit of an Ind AS company, the first thing you should do is on your laptop, you should have the Ind AS accounting standards. It's a different matter whether you read it or not. This particular question has been specifically answered in Ind AS 115. So she downloaded it and I went and told her, read this particular paragraph. She read it and she was satisfied. So this is something which I find increasingly, Google is not bad. I'm not saying Google is, not the correct source, but Google is good. But are we seeing the right website? Are we seeing the updated website? Has that law changed? So those are the problems or the inefficiencies in Google there. So always AQMM model says, please have the latest accounting and auditing standards in your audit article clerk's file or soft copy, laptop, whatever it is. The ICAI has got all these updated versions on their website. For auditing and accounting resources, in case anybody in this particular participants or article clerks or hearing this, auditing and accounting standards, you all need not go beyond the ICAI website. You all don't have to go to Tax Guru. You all don't have to go to anywhere else. ICAI is more than sufficient for the purpose because they've got everything updated on there. Just download it and keep it. And of course, you'll have to implement it in the course of your audit. It's very important to understand this fact that this has to be very clearly documented, and it is not only, what you can say, having it there, but also what is applicable. You can download all the Ind AS standards, you can download all the auditing. What is applicable to them? That's what is most important. Has time been spent on understanding the business, risk assessment, and engagement? This, of course, we all do because we have a specific auditing standard on risk itself, right? Look at the second point. Second point is very important for me. Does the firm evaluate the efficiency and benchmark delivery by monitoring the number of statutorily backed engagements closed on time, before time, rated finding, completion of this thing? Because this is a, what you can say, audit quality model, they are now trying to tell that one of the, what you can call competencies is, have you filed the returns on time, before time, or is there a belated file? Very dangerous for us in India at least. Why I'm saying dangerous is because I'm quite sure somebody is going to ask me on chat, sir, how can I file before time when the Infosys website itself is not working? You should not give me any points for this. You should actually give me a bonus point if I file it on the website is not working. This is the first part. I'll completely buy that particular thing. Belated filing does not necessarily have to be at the or delay from the auditor side. It can be because of various other reasons also, like technical problems, GST portal not working, income tax portal not working. All those things can be possible, definitely. And as I told last time also, there is this thing in the Indian context that when we say on or, they see the Income Tax Act always says on or before 31st of December. Assuming that the due date for filing is on or before the 31st of December. We have forgotten, many of us have forgotten this or before. For many of us, it is on 31st of December only. Kyun? We want that excitement. I'm not trying to say it's wrong, because that excitement is required. What will happen? Will there be further delay? Will there be a postponement? Let us see what will happen. Everything would have been done. Self-assessment tax paid, 26 years reconciled, DSE is with you. You only have to file. Say, no, we'll wait. Let us see this further extension. So this particular second part, I think we will not score many marks because of the fact that on time, we will get marks definitely. But before time, very rare according to me. And you again go back to the next part of this. This is that number of statutory audit engagements which have been reworked because of filing errors, information insufficiency, wrong interpretation of provisions, etc. Again, here the AQMM model is trying to probably say that if it is because of the mistake of the auditor that there's been a restatement or whatever it may be, then you will not get any points for this. But that is going to be a very rare case. Obviously, it's not going to be, for all the cases, but still you can see where we are getting at here, right? So this is again, what becomes another factor in this particular entire set of this standard. So the insistence on the audit is different, because I can give you I'm just giving the example of return filing because it's fine, because Infosys, we all know about this, right? But audit itself, I know cases wherein it should not have happened, but it has happened, right? It happened like in a limited review, but not in an annual audit, thankfully. Board meeting was called for. Auditor was doing his work. Board meeting was called for. But because of whatever reason, everybody's blaming each other right now for this. This happened in the September quarterly review. Because of whatever auditor is trying to blame the client is trying to blame the auditor, everything happened. But apparently there was some sort of a confusion last day. As you know, everybody is working on the last day. But because the reports were not ready, the board meeting had to be postponed by one day, only by one day, but it happened the next day. It was supposed to happen on a Thursday, it happened on a Friday. And I'm not doing any work for the company, but I know the CFO all very, very well. Now, without mentioning what had actually gone wrong, the CFO only blamed the audit firm. He did not say that, we delayed giving information, nothing. You can see how it is happening nowadays, right? So he blamed the audit firm and said that they should have asked this information in advance. They knew the board meeting was fixed. First time in the history of the company, the board meeting has been postponed. So they have got a negative view of the audit firm. And they have said that earliest opportunity will rotate the audit firm. So that sort of, issues also are happening. Number of client disputes. Audit quality means you should obviously not be having many disputes with the client. Review frequency of backlog, engagement agreed upon, not commenced, work in progress, client side delays and all those things. But again, this is only for listed companies. So the good thing about this AQMM right now is the fact that because it is applicable for listed companies only, there are timelines given by SEBI. The SEBI LODR regulations give timelines, 45 days from end of the quarter. So they will have to give a limited review report. They have to give an audit report. They have to file an annual report before this date. So those deadlines given by SEBI have to be met definitely. Client disputes. I can only give you all the example of 1% beverages. What happened in 1% beverages in 2018? The auditor suddenly resigned saying that client is not giving information. He was auditor for quite some time. New auditor was appointed, he also resigned, or they also resigned. I should not say he, they also resigned. When one auditor resigns, we can blame it on the auditor. When two auditors resign, you should definitely blame it on the company. Today, 1% beverages is under insolvency. That itself sort of shows what it is. But the AQMM model is seen to focus on, do you have disputes with the clients? Which means that have you not commenced an audit because of a dispute? That again reflects on quality. You may have a dispute. It is your job to resolve the dispute, but not delay the audit. So these seem to be the takeaways from this particular thing. And यहाँ पे देखिए कितना complex हो गया scoring यहाँ. Number of statutory assignments reworked. Filing errors, information, negative scoring based on percentage. This also I have recommended to the ICA that they have to remove this. Negative scoring for us is only there in the insolvency, that's valuation examination. It is not there in any other area. And I think it should not be there also. Let us assume for a minute that statutory audit had to be reworked. For, let us say, an accounting policy was not completely implemented or followed, so it had to be reworked. Why should the auditor get negative scoring for that particular mistake is my question. He may not, it may not be entirely his fault. Okay, he must have followed that particular auditing standard or accounting standard as the case may be, but the company may have had a different interpretation of it. They may have interpreted it differently. So this, I think, is not going to help us much, because thankfully we will have very limited such cases of, because India's companies especially cannot do prior period unless it's a major problem area. But otherwise, you will have to worry about this thing here. But I think also this negative scoring will have to be rethought by the ICA. You can have points for number of engagements which have been reworked. Don't have negative scoring. It will unnecessarily, will get down your reputation, right? It will again get down your audit from this thing. Okay. So again, one more quick question which came up was, is this quality review required for each assignment? Yes, it is required for each assignment, as long as it's a listed company. You have to do it for each assignment. No threshold limits have been fixed as of now. Listed company will definitely have to follow this particular procedure. Okay. Technology adoption. Nowadays, everything is going on technology only. Everybody is negative scoring along with budgeted versus, yeah, really negative. Manoj Dagaji, I completely agree with you. This is negative. I mean, they'll have to fine tune all these things. Abhi to nahi hai, it's not formalized yet, so I'm sure they'll change all those things. All of you all know about this. Technology is taking over many areas of operations. I'm not worried about, we should not be too worried about the outside thing, what is happening outside, but there are definite possibilities that, say, for example, routine journal entries, standardized audit reports, for that matter, even your client acceptance engagements, all those things, technology can take over. Machine learning can repeat your engagement letter. You just have to give the changes. You don't have to do it every year. What you are doing, copying and pasting previous years, the machine will do it for you. That's called machine learning. That's all. If that is the situation, we may have to upgrade our technology to ensure that at least many of these points raised in the AQMM are there. I'm sure that many of you have got official, Microsoft packages or whatever it may be. Maybe you are having this cloud server. Nowadays, cloud storage is so simple, it's so cheap. It's reasonable. I won't say cheap, but reasonable. You can get large storage for a very reasonable cost. So I don't think we should have issues as far as pricing, revenue, cost for the purpose of storage and digital technology, digitization, so to speak. We can store all our files in the cloud. It can be, reworked every year. You can have a look at it every year and all those things. So what I'm going to do for this technology discussion is, I'm going to leave out the attendance system and leave management, because we will not be so big enough to have a leave management and LMS and all, as they call, leave management software and all. We don't have all those things. Our job, our problem as audit firms is that all our leave management is on WhatsApp only, because 8 o'clock in the morning, you'll have to get a message, sir, today I'm not feeling well, I'll not come to the office. It's not a question, it's just a statement. They're not going to come any which ways. So you will have to put that into Excel and say, okay, these people are not going to come to the office today. So I'll not worry about those aspects of this thing, but a couple of things we have to think of, and I'm going to speak about this in particular. Fourth point, email IDs. The same company I was referring to a bit earlier, because of this RBI mandate, they wanted a new audit this thing here. So they wanted a rotational auditor. They wanted to replace an auditor, and one of the firms which applied were known to me, and 2 other firms also applied for this particular thing. And one of the things which the company told me was that they said that this firm, they have sent me an email from their Gmail ID, which means they don't have an official ID, or you assume that they don't have. But the question he asked me, the company CFO asked me, was, why is he sending it from a Gmail ID? I never thought of it in that way. But now looking at the AQMM, I'm thinking that it is absolutely necessary that you have a Gmail ID. Doesn't matter, have an official Gmail ID, not your personal Gmail ID. Email IDs, usage policies, all these things become very. So people are looking at it in that particular manner. It's not only the AQMM, but others also looking at it in this particular manner. ICAI has given detailed guidance on websites. You can do a lot of things on your website now. Need not necessarily have to just be a static website. You can have a dynamic website. This push-pull technology is always there. You can put updates there. A lot of things are happening on technology front, so you can use that for your website also. Video conferencing facilities adopted. I need not mention about this because 119 people of you, all of you are looking at this video conference, so it's obviously been adopted there. And I think this is the way we're going to go in the future. This hybrid model is what we're going to happen in the future also. Please use licensed operating system and software, not because unlicensed versions work, but because we're talking about quality here. Don't try to get the open version of Tally, they call it. Available for 1,500 rupees. You pay 1,500 rupees, you get Tally, not the official version, but we call this the open version, unlocked version of Tally, they call it. Antivirus and malware protection tools. The more technology we use, the more we are at risk. I think all of us do know that. So please have an official antivirus package and buy this antivirus package. Please keep it there, because I myself have been, many a time I get this, because I have got this Twitter thing which happened, wherein not Twitter or Facebook, I think. No, not Twitter, I think it was Netflix. Yeah, Netflix, I think it was. So suddenly I got a message on my phone saying that somebody is from South Mexico or somewhere is trying to log into your Netflix account. I was, I immediately changed the password, because that's what even Netflix said. They said, please change your password immediately because somebody's trying to access your account or your Netflix account or whatever it may be. I didn't know anybody in Mexico, so that was, very clear somebody was trying to access it there. So these things are important. You should have those necessary security measures. Otherwise, you'll end up, what's the point of maintaining quality data when it's not going to be useful for you when you don't get the data? AI, ML is an area wherein many people have said that it's going to replace accounting. I don't think it will completely replace accounting, because somebody should be there to understand what the machine is or machine language is going to say. So I think these are technologies which are useful, but they will take their own time to develop, and they also are not completely foolproof. I tell you all that also. They're also not completely foolproof, right? So it's not going to maybe be entirely like, foolproof sort of an operation. Then you'll have to worry about AI and ML on their own. See, because I always give this example wherein they talk about, somebody was telling me about this, saying that, technology has so pervaded our lives that now we are having driverless cars. This is what was told to me. We are having driverless cars. I do not know about other places in India, but I can definitely tell you all that if there is a driverless car which is driven in Bangalore, that car is not going to be driverless for very, very long. It's not going to be useful in the Indian context, because how much ever cameras you may use, how much ever technology you use, there's always somebody who comes the wrong way. The car may stop, but you may get hit also. So there's a limitation in what technology can also be done in terms of audit and in terms of, this thing. But data will be very, very useful. You can pick up a lot of data, and the data can be churned. You can use that data. You can be seeing it now today in all these matches which are coming out, these cricket matches and all these things. You can see so many things coming up, data is coming out. Some of it may not be useful at all, but still it is data. How we use the data becomes very, very important. So that is where this AI and ML come in. Okay. Now, this part I'll quickly go through, but there are some humorous things also here, so we can take it in a very light manner also. We are using this AQMM model in an accounting firm, which depends largely on article clerks. Okay, you may have chartered accountants also, but largely the basic groundwork, so to speak, is being done by article clerks and audit clerks. So when we talk about employee training, we are talking about a large section of article clerks and maybe a few chartered accountants. So you can see here in the human resources bit, what they're trying to say is that, sorry, this is again for HR. Yeah. Okay. Does the firm evaluate the employee retention relation with the firm? Number of professionals versus number of other people who have been employed, number of years in the firm, to identify the reasons for turnover, if any. Statutory contributions wherever applicable. Health insurance, other benefits for staff and members. Again, I told you, corporatizing the practice. Which kind of audits? Does it have a revolving door policy for people below partner level? Revolving door policy means basically, suppose there's one area, let us say Ind AS or let us say GST, wherein the person is not very familiar with it. Do you put in a new person who will come and give that advice and go away? That's what is called revolving door. People can come and people will walk out. Depending upon the area you want to have this importance or this criticality, people can come and people can walk out and they will give their views and go away. That's what is called as revolving door policy. And please be very clear here that they are talking about a revolving door policy below the partner, not at partner level. Partner level, obviously, you will have this turnover which will come after 2 or 3 years, but this is required below this thing, below the partner level. Access to technology, infra, methodology for better environment, day-to-day favor, including favorable remote working policies. Very relevant in the present day and context, as I told you. But I would like to draw your attention to the last point. Very humorous point, very nice point, which we can take it in any way we want. Special policies to provide people time to regenerate, especially after busy audit season. This is an official statement in the AQMM, Audit Quality Maturity Model. Just imagine what is going to happen here. So they are saying that once the audit season is over, you should have a special policy to regenerate the people. Mane kya, you should take them outside, whatever you may want to do. Let us assume, I will not give the example of Sarash, I will give the example of Bharat Jain. Let us say Bharat Ji has finished the audit December mein. Sab ho gaya, AGM ho gaya, everything is done, all the audits are done, and he wants to implement AQMM by taking these people outside to regenerate people. Let us say he wants to come to Bangalore, because let the firm and all their article clerks spend 3 days in Bangalore and go back. That's exactly, I'm just saying Bangalore, you can choose any place. You can choose Kathmandu, you can choose Sri Lanka, you can choose any place. The idea is only that, take people out so that they can regenerate. But what happens? The day he is supposed to leave, previous day, he gets a phone call from a client saying that GST notice aa gaya hai, so can you please come? It's very, very important. GST notices nowadays are like almost like arrest warrants. They are saying that if you don't give this information, you can't leave my office. So Bharat Jain ji is wondering what to do, and he says, "Theek hai, chalo baad mein jaye." So this may not also be practical. Maybe he can go in Hisar. Maybe he can go in Hisar. He will not be able to come to Bangalore or Sri Lanka, or maybe he can go outside in Hisar. But the intention is very clear. The intention is that we know this from practice. Practically, we know this. We are just moving from one crisis to another. One audit ho gaya, next audit comes in. One GST notice has been answered, next one comes in. In that particular place, they are talking about this special policy to regenerate people, especially after busy audit season. But the what you can possibly call as the unstated message given by this AQM at this point seems to be that don't put too much of pressure on the person, because that is when quality will suffer. This AQMM model also seems to understand that, especially in the Indian context, we have got limited resources. We don't have a large pool of resources we can choose from. We've got limited resources only. So if I keep on burdening a person with so much of work, obviously quality is going to suffer. There's no two ways about it. So they probably, when they use the word called regenerate, I can give a very simple thought. I can give a very simple solution. No need to take them out anywhere. Just ask them to take 3 or 4 days off. Let them not come to the office. Say, please spend time with family. Don't come to the office. Switch off your mobile. They may not do it, but still. Don't think about work. Don't think about next audit. Just stay away. That itself is regeneration. And it has also apparently worked well, because many people have also told this, that if they take a break, a quick break, it will really help them in terms of, improving or focusing on the next job at hand. It always happens. You can see it happen in many, many fields. They are also talking about the same thing in the Indian field. Okay, focus policies and support. We'll not worry about all those things. We'll not worry, Are the employees of the firm compensated as per a defined approach where salary is as per the knowledge and experience of the employee? ISCOBE I'm going to pass, because nobody is going to say that they are very happy with their salary. I'm just making a very general statement here, but I think we're quite sure of the fact that. So here I would actually think that we need to also think about this more from the ICA regulator point of view than from our individual firms. And though firms are doing this on their own, you look at the stipend which is being paid, look at inflation, what has happened. There's no obviously comparison between these two, right? Okay, you understand that you're paying them a stipend because they are just starting off their careers, they're learning more, they're going to do the exams and all those things. But still, a little bit more liberal stipend can probably help a lot in, because even those people who are coming from outside rural areas who have to stay, they have to spend money, all this is required for this, right? And again, you can see why the AQMM is talking about this is that it is always, you can take this as a written or unwritten rule that if an employee is not compensated properly, his quality is not going to be 100%. There is no, you will always be cribbing about his salary. He will always keep saying that my salary is low. So he will not, his focus is only going to be on where to get his right salary and not worry about the audit quality. Though many firms have already implemented this by trying to pay more, audit managers, chartered accountants, and article clerks. This should be a general thing which has been done across this thing. Okay, then I think there's one more area which I thought I should definitely tell you all, which is, employee training and development. I think this is the area where I wanted all of you all to take the maximum points from the HR part of this AQMM model. Employee training and development. And as I said, when this particular thing, employee means article clerks, audit clerks, everybody, whoever it is. The importance of employee training and development cannot be overemphasized at all. I think all of you all will definitely agree with me that today, in the present day and age, compliance is becoming a burden. Why is it becoming a burden? Because we are having so many laws. Those laws are so changing so fast. It is very difficult to keep pace with those laws. If we cannot keep pace with those laws, how will the article clerks keep pace with those laws? How will the audit managers keep pace with those laws? This is where I think one more, I told you all about the documentation, I told you right about that particular thing. What were the observations and how well were they concluded? That was a takeaway from the first part of the discussion on practice management, PMO. HR, my singular advice to all of you all would be that at least once a month, do not have to call it as a formal training and development program. You can just get all your employees together in your office, make them sit together and just have a discussion on any topic related to the profession. It can be a latest GST notification. It can be an improvement or a changed accounting standard. It can be an auditing standard also. Any of these things. You don't have to have a speaker and all those things. Let it be a general discussion. You all will observe that initially we find a lot of resistance to this, but later on, people do come up and do ask the necessary questions. The importance of this can never be overemphasized at all, because I have myself seen in many audits wherein the person does not know what question to ask. Of course, he does have a checklist, There's no doubt about it. The checklist is being used. He's writing that particular checklist there. He's answering the question in the checklist. But then again, unless he knows what he's talking about, what's the point of a checklist here? So my suggestion to all of you all would be that once in a month, get all of your employees together. Take up any one topic. It can be any area related to the profession. Companies, that is there. We have no shortage of laws for discussion in for employee training and development. We have no shortage of laws. We have no shortage of amendments. Enough and more is there for more than 1 year for all of us. Discuss about this internally. You express your views, get their views, or just read the notification. That itself becomes employee training because it registers in their minds. Major mistakes which have happened only because of lack of knowledge. And when I'm talking about lack of knowledge, I'm not restricting this discussion only to auditing standards and accounting standards. It can be professional misconduct. It can be code of ethics. It can be FEMA. It can be FEMA, for example. FEMA is an area where all of us are still not very clear because RBI keeps giving so many notifications. Is it that we are violating some particular FEMA notification? We don't know. So we'll have to get all that very, very clear here. So this, I think, is going to be my biggest takeaway from this entire HR part on AQMM. Once in a month, please get together and do this, employee training development program, training policy. Of course, you can send them for seminars and all those things, but then they are not, though they can recognize this training and development, but I would still, because ultimately you're going to talk about how it is going to apply to your client. So I think I would still prefer an in-house training and development program. You can send them for outside seminars, no problem, but still in-house is always best. Discuss those things. The thought processes or the discussions or the conclusions which come up there can be very, very significant. And more importantly, and probably more importantly, the employee will not make an error in that area in this particular thing. So I would think that you forget about this regeneration, all those things. That also you can do, but if you keep all those asides, resource planning, monitoring, all the sub chhod dijiye. Just look at a simple training and development program, because that can have non-training and development can have more disastrous consequences than just having a simple, what you can call as, resource planning, monitoring. So the non-training development can have very disastrous consequences. And we are seeing this day in and day out. So you're going to ask me a question. I'm quite sure that you're going to ask me a question. How is it that we can know all the laws, because compliance, as I told you all, is so complex and we know all the laws? I think the way we should probably do this is to have, this may take some time, but still, have one database which is like your master database. Put in all the regulations there and give a couple of people in your office the responsibility to update this whenever updates come in. May not be immediately, but maybe at some point of time later on. Again, since many of you may probably be practicing GST, I can tell you all this, that the Civic website gives you the latest CGST rules, not the CGST Act. CGST rules are latest. As per the recent 3 months, 4 months old amendments. I'm talking about that sort of a thing. But you know what is the latest? You know what was the old law? You know what has been amended here? You know what is the new thing? That's what we're talking about here. It may take some time, but please try and do it for all the areas. Income tax, it can be GST, it can be your SEBI laws, it can be listed companies, SEBI LODR regulations. All these are changing so fast. Very difficult to keep pace. But you should have that library. When I spoke about, you said the cloud library. You have it there. You'll have to think about it and then try to implement it. So please try to ensure that all of you all do this at least once in a month. Okay, all this is the other parts of HR I'll not worry too much about. So I'm assuming that this is the area where all of you all will. So the HR part is also done now. The last part is this practice management. Does the firm have a balanced mix of experienced and new partners? The AQMM is not asking us why, not giving us, or the AQMM is not supposed to, shall I say, give us a justification for why they are asking these questions. But I think the message appears to be that or the message seems to be pretty clear that if it is experienced partners, they come with a certain skill sets. New partners come with a certain set of skill sets. There has to be a mix of both. That's why they're talking about this here. Is the firm compliant with ICAI Code of Ethics, Companies Act 2013, other requirements related to professional independence and conflict of interest? So here, Code of Ethics, I'm quite sure the branch has done many programs, so you all know about the Code of Ethics. Many people feel the Code of Ethics is only about what a professional firm can do, cannot do. Can I do internal audit of this particular client? Can I do, let us say, valuation in case it's a statutory client? You know, such questions. That's what many people feel is about this, Code of Ethics. If you look at those 3 volumes of Code of Ethics, it's beyond that. It's obviously beyond. It talks about all those threats I spoke to. I spoke about the familiarity threat, I spoke about the self-interest threat and all these things. But the underlying theme behind all this is the word called as independence. So when we speak about this Code of Ethics, independence and all these things, the message which is very clear is that irrespective of whatever threat comes up, known client, 10 years, I told you, Sarashi is known client for 10 years. He is there for 10 years. Sarashi knows him very well. He also knows him very well. Everybody's assuming that, nothing can go wrong. But in this particular, something has happened. And the client says, you know me so well, I didn't do it intentionally. So, chhod dijiye. I think this is where independence comes in. Sarashji will have to particularly mention this somewhere in his report. This is where quality comes. This is where AQMM comes in. It could be in the representation letter. It could be anywhere. But the fact is that this will have to be noted somewhere because that becomes very, very important. The AQM is also talking, is there a whistleblower policy? Now, this word called whistleblower came into the dictionary, accounting dictionary, only because of Enron. This happened in 2002 in the US again. But from then, whatever has happened has been courtesy or thanks to Enron only. Basically, what a whistleblower is the fact that do you have a policy wherein anybody can come and give complaints in case they feel something wrong is happening in the firm? It's a very dangerous statement to make also. Because suppose some article clerk is not happy with you, she can come and just make one general complaint and go away. So it may not be practical to have a complete whistleblower policy. But if you want to sort of, fine-tune the whistleblower policy to an accounting firm, to an audit firm, it's not only about what is going wrong, it's also about areas for improvement. I would take it in a positive manner. What is the areas for improvement in this particular firm? Because audit clerks and article clerks, they are the ones who are going out. They know what the client is talking. They know what others are talking. That feedback becomes very useful. I think what the AQM model is trying to say is that please permit that feedback. Please allow that feedback. It's only for your improvement of your quality. Sometimes there can be resistance here because people can probably say, what does article clerk know? I've been in practice for the last 25 years. I know better than that. But I think we should shed all that aside and just look at, do we have or do we encourage this sort of feedback? So I won't call it as a whistleblower policy as such. Do you have a constructive feedback mechanism? I'll put it in that way. Do you have a feedback mechanism only for quality improvement? Only for quality improvement. Is the firm ICAI peer review certified? All of you are going to say yes. Do you have empanelment with the RBI and the CNDG? All of you are going to say yes. Do you hold any ISO certifications? All of you are going to say no. Because ISO certification is not required. When you are peer review, itna mushkil se kiya, why do you require an ISO certification? Is there an advisory as well as a decision to not allot audit due to unsatisfactory person by the CNDG office? I think this is one area where I would urge all of you all to be a little bit more careful, because especially firms who have been doing C&H audit for the last so many years, you probably realize, understand what I'm trying to say. Previously, C&H audits were not, or they were not doing the audits the way they are doing it now. Now there seems to be more, what we can possibly call as critical audits, in the sense that they are actually looking at ways in which they can ask the firm to improve their accounting policies and all those things. So they're asking the right questions also. They've also been trained substantially in many of those areas. Why this is important is because recently we had a very unfortunate case in Bangalore, wherein one of the PSU undertakings in Bangalore, wherein there was some sort of a clash on a technical topic or a technical area between the C&AG and the auditor himself. The auditor had said something in his report. The C&AG had had a different view. Nobody knew who was right, who was wrong. But what happened was that that conversation did not go very well, in the sense that it did not proceed on very cordial lines. So the C&AG said, no, we have got the power, we can do whatever you want. They have recommended to the C&AG in Delhi to blacklist this firm of auditors. This is not a very good development, if you ask me, because we may differ technically on different points. But look at the impact it has happened. They have asked this firm to be blacklisted because of a difference of opinion, not because of bad quality of work, but because of a difference of opinion in the C&AG. You're going to ask me a question. What happens if this happens to your firm? What if happens if I don't have, I don't agree with what the C&AG is saying. It has happened in audits which I'm also aware of. Again, a friend of mine who was got an audit, he was having an issue on Ind AS with the C&AG because the C&AG did not understand the transaction at all. They had asked me for an opinion and given an opinion and told them that they have to do this particular accounting treatment. The C&AG did not seem to be agreeing with that at all. So we had a couple of round of discussions. They still did not get it. So when I met them, I told them, sir, what is the solution you're seeking? They said, no, we understand that you have got different opinions. You've got different reporting practices also. You're giving me other annual reports also. We will agree for this only if you get an opinion from the expert advisory board of the ICA. You can see what happened. We didn't go adverse. We found a solution. We did ask the EAC for an opinion. We followed whatever the opinion was mentioned by the EAC. So I think again here, because this is going to affect your AQMM, please be a little bit careful in your dealings with the C&H auditors, because they have got the power. We only get the fees. They have the power. So they can, technically speaking, take any action. And I believe it's happened in a few more cases also. This is one case I know definitely of. So just be a little bit careful there. Look at the middle solution. You can stick to your point of view, obviously, because if you don't want to compromise on your point of view or the nature of your audit or whatever it may be, but just get a middle view, get a third opinion. Always a third opinion will always help a lot, Have any government bodies, authorities evaluated the performance of the firm for debarment blacklisting? Any negative assessment in the report of the QRB? Is there been a case of professional misconduct on the part of the firm? Has he been proved guilty here? This is the last part, practice credentials. First part was PMO, practice management operation. Second part was HR. Third part, probably the easiest part, is practice, because all of you are here. All of you will get maximum marks in practice credentials. Why maximum marks? आपके पास तो C&H registration है, peer review हो गया है, you are registered with the RBI, you got no nil comments in the C&AG, no professional misconduct. So here you will score maximum marks. Practice credentials is not an area for concern at all for most firms. Of course, unfortunately, what has happened is because of this concurrent audits and all happening, there are certain firms who have been blacklisted by the RBI. It is there in public domain also. RBI has blacklisted certain firms because of whatever reasons, not necessarily being hand in glove, but some issues in the audit itself. You all can try putting this AQMM model to a concurrent audit. You all will find that it is just not worth it. For the fees being paid, itna karna, definitely not worth it at all. So you all can just try doing this for the statutory audit. Maybe you may want to think of it on those lines, but for concurrent audit, you can see Who's going to do so much for a concurrent audit, But yeah, so what I should probably do is that on this practice credential funds, you'll definitely have a lot of this thing. So here we come to the business end of the AQMM model. What does it talk? How many points you'll have got? You'll have a total of 150 points. 150 points is only because ICA wanted to make it one round figure of 150. Practice management operation 80 points. HR 50 points. Little bit excessive ho gaya HR ke liye. And your final practice credentials is 20 points. How many points you all want to get in this? You are going to definitely tell me I want full 150 points. I will definitely say not possible. Don't worry about it. 150 is not possible. 60% is my passing mark, like, or 50% like in CA exams. Possible, yes, we can take 50% as a passing mark. But what the AQMM has done in a rather interesting way is that they are giving the rating based on each section, not on total. They've said that up to 30% in each section that the firm is very, very nascent. Please remember here that you have got total number of marks, those points which I told you all about for those individual questions. And depending on those points, you will get this thing here. Up to 30% means आपको बहुत काम करना पड़ेगा. Very, very nascent. You have to take a lot of steps to improve. 30 to 60%. Thoda better. Some progress has happened, but you still have to do a lot of work to reach competency. Above 60% in each section, the rating is 3. Indicates firms have made significant adoption of standards and should focus on optimizing further. Even for firms who are in rating 3, ICA has not left that saying that you are the best. They said, no, you still have to optimize further. Because they want to go from 60% to 100% probably, 99% probably. So here, I think this sort of gives you the summary of what the AQMM is trying to tell us about and what they want from us. Where will we be today? In the audit which I told you about, which Sarashri is going to do or any of us are going to do, probably we are in rating 1 only. I'm not talking level 1, I'm talking about rating 1, which means that we'll have to probably 30. But there's nothing wrong about this. Please don't think of this as a certificate or please don't think of this as pass or fail. There's nothing wrong with this. It is only a competency model to ask us to further improve. We go back here, and I told you all earlier also, 50 marks for HR, 50 points for HR is very, very difficult because kya karenge aap? Compensation zyada karenge kya? Will you give rejuvenation policy for employees? Will you do training and development? So 50 marks is a little bit on the higher side. You may have to rethink about that particular thing. But this is where the AQMM model is trying to give us scores for each section. So it's not a total thing, it's individual section wise. And I think the advantage in this model is that they may want you to improve on individual areas. Say, for example, practice management operation, PMO. Bharatji's firm can be 50% in that. No problem at all. Automatically in rating 2. My firm can be in 30%, rating 1. They are not looking at this in totality. They're looking at this in individual silos, which I think is a very good thing because it gives the firms the exact area wherein they have to make this particular improvement. So I would suggest to all of you all to probably, go for this, do a rating and see where you all stand as far as this is concerned. Level 3 in 3-4 years time, I'm saying. In 2025, in case Hisar and Sonepat branch do one more AQMM seminar, at that time, all of you can probably say that, we are all in level 3, abhi seminar nahi chahiye. AQMM should be. We'll go to the next topic. We don't require any more seminars in AQMM. That's why I said it's a process. It's a journey. It's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't stop immediately. You will have to do this over a period of time. What are the problems we need and what are the clarifications we require? As Manojji has asked me a question, is it there for every assignment? Yes, it should be. How frequently should this AQMM be done? Every year, once in 2 years, once in 3 years? No clarity. I would assume that this can probably, may not be annually, but let us say probably once in 2 years or once in 3 years. We do not know. There has to be something which is coming out when the official AQMM is actually released. Second, will there be a counter check? Will the peer reviewer, I believe that the AQMM model is going to be commented upon in the peer review certificate. This is what I heard. The AQMM rating will be mentioned in the peer review certificate, at least for those listed companies, not for the private limited, at least for those listed companies. So will the peer reviewer come and check my ratings? Because please remember, this is a self-assessment model. I am giving myself this rating. Is somebody going to check that rating? That is another area where clarification will have to be definitely given. And probably the most important question is that where will these ratings be used? This question will have to be answered by the ICAI immediately. If it is going to be given to SEBI, and SEBI says, okay, I will only give this for rating firms which have a rating of 3. I will not take firms who have got a rating of 1. Cause for concern. If this ultimately flows on to the RBI, and the RBI says that rating 2 only, I'll give you bank audits. I'll not give you any branch audits, I'm saying, not CSA. Only if you're rating 2, you'll get a branch audit. Otherwise, you'll not get a branch audit. So here also, I think we need a lot of clarifications. If those ratings are, as of now, I don't think it's going to go in the public domain. I don't think it can go in the public domain without the permission from the members, especially. I don't think it will go in the public domain. I don't see that happening right now, at least. But if at all a time in the future it is going to go, we need to be a little bit careful, because those can be used as benchmarks for the purposes of trying to give a credit, give a AQMM rating for the firm, and which will ultimately translate into audits also being done in that, or audits being allocated in that particular manner. So I think both of these areas, we have to be a little bit careful. And I'm quite sure that ICA will probably amend or, give some sort of a clarification on this in some time. Hopefully we will get this when this final model is released, and we will get a little bit more clarification. That just give me 1 minute. I'll try to show you all that sheet which I spoke about. And of course, auditing standards we don't have to do right now. Just give me 1 minute and see if I can share that sheet for the AQMM itself. Okay, so yeah. So what I've done is that I've built this entire sheet. It's still very, very incomplete. I just fine-tuned it, as I told you all. I will share the sheet once it is done with the Hisar branch and Sonepat branches. You all can just go through this. What will happen here is that this is pretty simple, since most of the questions are yes or no. For yes, you get 2 points. For no, you get 0 point or 1 point, as the case may be. I just put in a simple formula here, wherein if you put no here, the number automatically changes in that sheet. I've still got to sort of do this in completion, but I will definitely send this across. What I've done is I've come across many of these things. There are a little bit of fine tuning and what you can say, refinement is required, which I will definitely do, and I'll send it across to Sarashi. He'll share it with all of you all. Now here, I think what you all can do is, once I send the sheet, simple, this is where you all have to come in. Your only work is going to be putting the score here. All you'll really have to do is put the score here. The rest, this model will the sheet will take care of by itself. Just put in your score here. You all can be a little bit, what you can say, I won't say conservative, optimistic while giving the score. For example, I told you about manual. You all may think about, हमारे पास तो manual नहीं है, but we got checklist. Okay, doesn't matter. Checklist is equal to manual. Put yes for this, no problem at all. But not because you want that point, because you want to develop that checklist into a manual. That's the reason why you should put this point there. So once this is done, I'll definitely share it across. You all can probably then have a look at it, so that then what happens is that you all can have one sort of a template for this particular model here. Okay, so I think that is what I basically wanted to talk to all of you all about. Let me just see if I can. Yes, this is already done. Auditing standard is already done. I think we don't have to worry about auditing standards, but there are a lot of auditing standards, almost 46 are there. So just focus on a few things. I will just give you all one slide before I open this up for questions on audit file. Many people have asked this question. Aapke paas model audit file hai kya? What should it contain and all those things. This is just something which I have developed and just kept it here, wherein you all look at various things which have been done here. And I only want you all to, sorry, I think I've gone back to the beginning. Okay. I'll repeat the focus of these 3 points again, so that you'll get the message across here. When I look at this, I'll tell you. Look at this last point here. Summaries of significant matters. Issues, memoranda, and summaries of significant matters. Those two are what I'm focusing on a lot about, because I already mentioned this to you all earlier also, that this is the area where we require a lot of, importance and a lot of, trust should be on this area, because this is where the representation letter, checklist, all that we will have. But this area is very, very important, So that's why I thought I should tell you. So let me just summarize this by telling you all that I will go back to the first thing and just summarize this entire model for all of you and tell you all what is important. I will start with this here, and I will keep this because this is where the marking is. So the section reference, section 1 is I told you all practice management operation, PMO, manuals, checklists, manuals, those things. For everything, code of ethics, companies act, auditing standards, account, for everything, you should have manuals, a set of manuals. Please focus on that, especially this thing I told you about, summary of significant matters and how they've been disposed of. HR, 50 points, only training and development. That is the only thing we can do well now. So we will focus only on that, only on training and development, T&D as it's called. The third section, practice credentials, 20 marks, all 20 marks, all of you all will get, I'm quite sure, because no negative remark of the firm, no adverse, comments on the firm. So all of you are going to definitely get the entire 20 marks. So I think this is what we wanted to. As I told you all, I will show that, I'll send that Excel sheet to you all once it is completed. Maybe in a couple of days time, I'll probably 2 or 3 days time, I'll be able to send it. And then you all can look at it. And as I said, for medium-sized firms, no exception from auditing standards. I am saying no exception from AQMM also. Do as much as you all can. Start your first meeting next month with all your employees for HR. Develop this for the audit which has already been done. Don't think of it for 31st March 22 audit. Do it for an audit already done. That is why you all will learn the process. That's why you'll learn what has to be done. Do as much as you all can. Please remember, anytime, even ISO 9000 says the same thing. Quality is a process, quality is a journey. So the very fact that Sonepat and Hisar have done two seminars, they've already commenced the journey. They've already started the journey. So all you all should do is start with these 2 small areas and try and do what best you all can, so that at least the focus of the firm on audit quality does not waver. We should not do this. We should not lose focus. We should not lose importance and criticality of audit, this AQMM. It has to be a process which is there in the firm. All these things which I spoke about will help you all to get in that particular direction. Okay. So this is what I wanted to say. So thank you very much. Now, if there are any questions, I will take those questions. I'll be glad to take those questions. Happy to take those questions. Any other doubts you all have got, you all can always ask me. My email ID and my phone number is here. I will hand it over to Sarashji for his views on audit quality and generally whatever he has to say. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Any questions? किसी member को question हो?
Chat में तो कुछ नहीं.
Is the second
कोई query नहीं है sir.
The settings change कर दिया. I think anyone can ask the question. He or she can unmute yourself and ask the question.
I will send the presentation to you.
Sure, sir.
Sure, sir. आई थिंक सर कोई क्वेरी है नहीं जैन
ठीक है सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच
सर। बहुत अच्छा लगा। और आज मतलब पार्टिसिपेंट्स भी, कल भी हमारा वेबिनार था, कल 193 पार्टिसिपेंट्स गए हाईएस्ट में,
212 सर, 212 हो गए
212, और आज भी मुझे लगता है 150 क्रॉस तो एक बार हो गए थे पार्टिसिपेंट।
हाँ।
तो इलेक्शन के बाद से एकदम हमने किए वेबिनार, तो उसमें अच्छा रिस्पांस मिल रहा है, मेंबर्स आ रहे हैं। उससे पहले मेंबर आना छोड़ गए थे।
अच्छा,
लास्ट वेबिनार हमने किया उसमें 50 मेंबर थे, अराउंड 50 मेंबर ही थे।
हाँ,
लास्ट आपके साथ
40-50 सर,
40-50 थे।
हमें लगा अब रुझान खत्म हो गया सर, मेंबर नहीं
हाँ,
आ
तो
रहे।
इसलिए हम डर रहे थे।
अभी है ना, ब्रांचेस के इलेक्शन आने हैं, इस वजह से एक्टिव हो रहे हैं सभी।
आदि जी भी आ गए क्या?
ये हो सकता है।
हाँ, ये हो सकता है, पहले सारे एक्टिव नहीं थे।
ये भी चीज है। चलिए सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच सर, आप आए सर
Thank you,
हमारे
sir.
सेशन पे, आपने काफी अच्छा लिया सर AQMM पे सीरीज 2 पे। और मैं कहूँगा आदि जी से, आदि जी
थैंक
over to you now.
यू सर।
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच।
ओके, थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू।
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू।
नमस्कार। ओके।